Hey, it's Wednesday, time for another Action Figure Adventures video here on SEO Toy Review. Today, Baby Skeletor and I are taking a look at a whole bunch of flea market finds. I was out at a community-wide yard sale in my friend's childhood neighborhood, and I stumbled across a guy selling some Toy Biz X-Men and Marvel superheroes. First up, I've got Spaceman Wolverine. This is from the Dark Phoenix Saga storyline. I love this spacesuit. I think it's so funny, though, how you can see his regular uniform through it. That's great for identifying the character. But it's really silly for trying to keep the gases and vacuum of space out of your spacesuit. He comes with a removable helmet, which I never see this helmet on this figure at yard sales and toy shows, so that was a plus. And he's got these cool flick out claws. Whoops. One of the hallmarks of the Toy Biz line was the mutant power action features. Next up, we've got Nightcrawler. This is not the original series Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was one of the figures in the very first wave. I had all of those figures as a kid. That Nightcrawler happened to have suction cups on one knee and one hand. This is from a later series where the mutants had weapons that would fit in their hand and could light up to simulate some mutant power. So he has a button on his back here that doesn't do anything without a weapon in his hand. I don't even know if his battery's any good. But it's a decent looking Nightcrawler figure. Towards the end of the line, the designs got a little bit more outlandish. The muscles got extra big, and his hand is enormous compared to his head. But it's a decent looking Nightcrawler figure, and so I was kind of excited to pick him up. Even got ankle articulation there. That's cool. The guy had other Marvel Toy Biz figures as well as the X-Men, and I picked up Hobgoblin from the Spider-Man cartoon. Always thought this was a decent looking figure of a character that doesn't get as much screen time as his counterpart, the Green Goblin. He has his glider, which can shoot a missile. The figure just kind of fits into these little tabs on the back there, and he looks pretty good. He's got a hard plastic cape. He has an action feature here. It seems like he would have thrown pumpkin bombs. Of course, I didn't get those with him, but I like him. I think he's a pretty good looking figure, and like I said, you don't get a lot of Hobgoblin representation in toy lines. Cannonball! Here's Cannonball from X Factor. I never really had too many X Factor characters when I was actively collecting the Toy Biz line back in the 90s, and so I figured it was kind of fun to pick some of these guys up. He's got very broad shoulders compared to his waist. I don't know if he had any action features. There's nothing I could find with him, and maybe they sort of phased him out afterwards, or maybe he came with an accessory that sort of worked as his action feature. Because Cannonball can, launch himself, and so I don't know if he would have come with some sort of a base or something. Kind of like the Iceman figure had an ice slide accessory. I'm not sure what Cannonball came with. He's got one open hand and one closed hand, so it doesn't even look like he could really hold accessories very well. I also picked up Havoc from X Factor. This is Cyclops' brother. He projects these rings of energy, so I assume one plugged into this hand here because he has a little peg hole, and his action feature is activated when you turn him, so he probably threw a little plastic energy thing. But again, look at how buff this figure is. By the end of this line, the characters were insane. They were pretty crazy proportion to start with, but because they're superheroes, they got out of control by the end of this line. Here's Sarat, the Pterodactyl bad guy, who got featured quite a bit in the cartoon show in the Savage Land storyline. I never had Sarat as a kid. Always thought he was kind of cool, but I just somehow missed this villain. He has a little spot on the back for your finger to control him so you can attack with his wings. And he's got a tail and everything. He's a pretty cool looking figure. I think he came with a club originally, and he has an articulated beak. But I'm glad to finally have him in my collection. I picked up this later version of Storm. I had the original release that was in her all-black outfit. You press a button on her back here to make her lightning bolt light up. Of course, the batteries are dead on a toy this old. But they retooled this. It's the same body. They just added this piece of vinyl with the loops underneath her hairpiece when they attach the head and, or I guess, close up the battery compartment or whatever. And it works pretty well. Once the body's painted in silver, she pretty much looks like that later costume that Storm wore, and they didn't have to tool a whole new figure. It would have been nice if they had, because this figure is only okay. The hip joints are really goofy. But I enjoyed the original Storm figure, and I had the entire first lineup of those X-Men toys, but I did eventually sell them. She came with 2 lightning bolts. Not sure if she was supposed to come with 2 of those, but she came with 2 accessories. Yay! The Silver Samurai. You can never have enough chromed action figures. This guy is all vac metal. He looks really cool. He has a removable helmet, and he comes with his sword. I never had the Silver Samurai as a kid, but when I saw him there, I was like, oh, that would be a good figure to pick up. Just something different. He's really limited on articulation with having just shoulder joints and then knee joints. I'm not even sure why they gave him the knee joints. What are you going to do with him? You could pose him like he's dying. With the vac metal, they probably had to really limit the number of parts, or it was going to get too expensive to do this. I think he has like the antler horn type of thing that goes up there, but it's missing. Next, we've got Bishop, a character used quite a bit in the comic books during my childhood, but I didn't have this action figure. He has a feature here where if you push a button on his back, he kind of like draws his gun, which is kind of fun. He does come with a pretty big blaster. It reminds me of a bolt pistol from Warhammer 40,000. You ever seen one of those? He's got, you know, his standard blue and yellow outfit. He's got the red scarf. He's got the M tattoo / scar thingy on his face. He looks pretty good. Again, later figure from this line, so he's real bulky. But I was real happy to pick up this character. Gambit. I was so excited to get my hands on this figure as a kid. I had this Gambit with this really lousy trench coat. I used to actually take this plasticky trench coat off and put the trench coat that came with Cops and Crooks bulletproof on him because it looked better, even though this one had the collar permanently molded on the Gambit figure. This trench coat just seemed so cheap. The seams were on the outside, which looks bad. It feels like it's going to rip if you play with him too much, and I was always worried about that, so I just took it off and left it off of him pretty much all the time. And so I'm glad to have him with the trench coat again. He's got a little button on his back here that activates a kick. And he originally came with a staff. No playing card accessory for this version of Gambit. You had to pretend. His head was way too tiny. The last figure I picked up wasn't by choice. I got this ridiculous Jubilee figure. She is terrible. She's got a ratcheting arm over here. I don't know how to activate it. It seems like that must be part of an action feature. Does she have a button under this coat somewhere? Not that I can tell. She looks terrible, but the guy told me I had to take her. So, yay! Brought Jubilee home with me. I picked up all 11 of these action figures for a total of $5. I think that was a great win. Thanks for watching this Action Figure Adventures video. Do Baby Skeletor a favor, hit that like and subscribe button.